The first rays of dawn filtered through the towering windows of the Romano estate as Emma Sullivan pushed through the service entrance, her fingers trembling against the cold brass handle. The gauze taped across her left cheekbone felt like a beacon, screaming her secret to anyone who might glance her way. She pressed her palm against it instinctively, as if pressure alone could make it disappear. But nothing could erase what had happened 3 nights ago, and pretending otherwise was a luxury she couldn't afford. She'd been working as a housekeeper in Vincent Romano's Chicago mansion for nearly 7 months, and in that time, she'd mastered the delicate art of invisibility. It was survival in its purest form, the only way a woman like her could exist in the orbit of a man like him. Vincent Romano wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous, connected, the kind of man who controlled half the city's underground operations without ever raising his voice. Emma had learned the unwritten rules quickly. Move silently through the halls. Keep your eyes down, never ask questions, never draw attention. Those rules had kept her employed, kept her safe, kept her son fed. But today felt different. Today she carried something heavier than fear. Today she carried proof of her vulnerability, written across her skin in shades of purple and blue. If you've ever tried to hide something that could cost you everything, you understand the weight Emma felt in that moment. Secrets have a way of pressing down on your chest until you can barely breathe. But what happens when the most powerful man in your world discovers the truth you've been desperately concealing? Stay with us, because what unfolds next will prove that sometimes the most unexpected protector emerges from the darkest places. Emma had learned to exist like a ghost in the Romano mansion. At 26, she'd already accumulated more survival instincts than most people developed in a lifetime. Growing up on Chicago's South Side, raising her 6-year-old son Tyler alone, juggling multiple jobs just to afford their cramped studio apartment, it had all taught her that being invisible was the best defense a woman in her position could have. The Romano estate was a world she'd never imagined existing outside of movies. 18 rooms filled with imported marble, hand-carved furniture from Italy, and chandeliers that sparkled like captured starlight. She cleaned these rooms 6 days a week, her dark hands polishing surfaces until they gleamed, her curls pulled into a tight bun that left her scalp aching by afternoon. But the money made it worthwhile. For the first time in years, she could afford Tyler's asthma medication without choosing between that and rent. Vincent Romano himself remained an enigma, wrapped in $1,000 suits and calculated stillness. She'd glimpsed him perhaps 15 times in 7 months, always from a careful distance, always with that aura of contained danger that made her pulse quicken with instinct. At 34, he commanded every room he entered without saying a word, sharp features, dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything, and a way of moving that reminded her of a predator assessing territory. The staff spoke about him in hushed tones, how he'd inherited the family operations at 26 after his father's assassination, how he'd consolidated power by eliminating 3 rival organizations in one calculated sweep, how people who betrayed him simply vanished, no questions asked, no bodies found. Rosa, the head housekeeper, had pulled Emma aside during her first week with a warning that still echoed in her memory. Mr. Romano values exactly 2 things, loyalty and silence. Give him both and you'll survive. Break either rule and you won't. The unspoken threat hung in the air like smoke, so Emma had kept her distance, maintained her silence, protected her secrets. The most important secret being that she'd left Tyler with Mrs. Park, their elderly neighbor, this morning with explicit instructions to keep the door locked and answer for no one, especially not his father. 5 days ago, Jason Bennett had reappeared in their lives like a recurring nightmare. After nearly 3 years of blessed absence, he'd shown up at their apartment building intoxicated and belligerent, demanding money he claimed Emma owed him from their time together. When she'd refused to open the door, when she'd threatened to call the police, he'd grabbed her face through the crack in the doorway and slammed her cheekbone against the frame with enough force to split the skin. "You think you're better than me now?" he'd snarled, whiskey fumes rolling off him in waves. "Think that fancy job makes you something special? You're nothing, Emma. You'll always be nothing." She'd managed to force the door closed and engage the deadbolt before he could inflict more damage. But the injury couldn't be hidden. The bruise had bloomed across her cheekbone like spilled ink, dark and damning against her skin. She'd covered it with the largest bandage the corner pharmacy sold and called in sick for 2 days, terrified that showing up injured would cost her the job that kept her and Tyler fed. But bills didn't care about bruises or fear. So here she was, praying no one would notice, praying she could maintain this facade just long enough to figure out her next move. She was arranging fresh flowers in the main sitting room when she felt it, that electric shift in the atmosphere that meant Vincent Romano was nearby. Her heart began hammering against her ribs as she kept her face angled away, focusing with desperate intensity on the roses in her hands. "Miss Sullivan." His voice carried that distinctive quality, smooth and cultured with undertones of something darker. She froze completely, her fingers still gripping a stem. "Yes, Mr. Romano." She kept her voice steady through sheer force of will, kept her bandaged cheek turned away from his line of sight. "Look at me when I'm speaking to you." It wasn't a request. Men like Vincent Romano didn't make requests. They issued commands and expected immediate compliance. Slowly, pulse thundering so loudly, she was certain he could hear it. Emma turned to face her employer directly for the first time since she'd started working in his home. He stood in the doorway, 6 feet of controlled power wrapped in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her salary. His dark eyes swept across her face with methodical precision, and she watched them stop, narrow, and focus with laser intensity on the white gauze covering her left cheekbone. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut, ready to snap. "What happened to your face?" His tone hadn't changed, but something in the room shifted, became heavier, more dangerous. "I had an accident, Mr. Romano. Clumsy mistake on my part. It's nothing serious." The lie felt like ash in her mouth, but it was the lie women like her had been telling men in power since the beginning of time. He moved closer, each step measured and deliberate, and she forced herself not to retreat. When he stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive with notes of cedar and leather, he tilted his head slightly. "An accident." He repeated her words back to her, letting her hear how unconvincing they sounded. "Yes, sir." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Remove the bandage." Everything inside Emma screamed at her to run, but where would she go? This man had connections throughout the entire city. If he wanted answers, he'd get them eventually. Better to control how he learned the truth than have him discover it another way. With fingers that wouldn't stop shaking, Emma reached for the edge of the gauze. The adhesive pulled at her skin as she slowly peeled it away, revealing what she'd tried so hard to hide. The bruise was spectacular in its violence, a burst of deep purple and blue that spread from her cheekbone down to her jaw, with yellowish edges where the healing had begun. She couldn't bring herself to meet his eyes, couldn't bear to see whatever expression would be there. Disgust, probably. Or worse, indifference. But when she finally forced herself to look up, what she saw in Vincent Romano's face made her breath catch in her throat. It wasn't pity, it wasn't disgust, it was rage, pure and cold and absolutely lethal, transforming his features into something that reminded her exactly why people feared him. Who, one word spoken so quietly it was barely audible, but carrying the weight of a death sentence. Mr. Romano, please, it doesn't matter. Who did this to you? He stepped closer still, and she watched his hands curl into fists before he deliberately relaxed them, as if reminding himself to maintain control. Tell me his name. I can't. Her voice broke despite her best efforts. I just need to forget it happened and move on. Miss Sullivan. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and gently tilted her chin up so their eyes met directly. I asked you a question. In my world, questions require answers. He's nobody important, she whispered. Just someone from my past who made a mistake. It matters. Something flickered behind his eyes, something almost vulnerable beneath all that controlled fury. It matters because you work in my house under my protection, and someone marked you while you were under my protection. That's unacceptable. I don't need protection. The words came out fiercer than she'd intended. I've been taking care of myself and my son for years. I can handle this on my own. She regretted mentioning Tyler the moment the words left her mouth. She'd just revealed information about her personal life, given him a piece of herself that could be weaponized. His expression shifted subtly. You have a son. It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway, unable to take back what she'd already exposed. How old? 6 years old? And his father is the man who did this. Vincent gestured toward her injured face. Emma's throat tightened painfully. Jason hasn't been in our lives for almost 3 years, until 5 days ago when he decided to show up demanding money. What happened 5 days ago? She wanted to lie again, wanted to construct some story that would make all of this go away, but something in his eyes, some unexpected combination of authority and what looked almost like genuine concern, made the truth spill out before she could stop it. He found out where we live, showed up drunk, demanding money he claimed I owed him, when I wouldn't let him inside. When I told him I'd call the police if he didn't leave, he grabbed my face and... She touched her cheek gently, unable to finish the sentence. Vincent's entire body went rigid, the muscle in his jaw jumping as he clenched his teeth. His name, Miss Sullivan. I need his full name. Mr. Romano, please. Panic clawed at her chest. Just let this go. I'll handle it myself. I'll get a restraining order. I'll move if I have to, but please don't get involved in this. I can't owe you anything. Don't you understand? People like me survive by staying invisible, by not drawing attention, by not... She gestured helplessly between them. By not getting people like you involved in our problems. For a long moment, he simply looked at her. Then, to her complete shock, a small smile touched his lips, though there was no humor in it. Miss Sullivan, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to understand this completely. He stepped back slightly, giving her space but keeping his eyes locked on hers. The moment you accepted employment in this house, you became my responsibility. every person who works for me, who enters my home, who depends on me for their livelihood. They fall under my protection. That's not negotiable. It's not optional. It's simply how I operate. I don't want to be anyone's responsibility, she whispered, feeling tears burn behind her eyes. Too late. He pulled out his phone with a smooth motion. Marco, I need a complete background check on someone named Jason Bennett. Southside Chicago area. Has a 6-year-old son named Tyler. I want his current address, his employment history, his patterns, and any criminal record on my desk in 2 hours. Mr. Romano, please don't do this. He held up one hand, still on the phone. I also need security assigned to... He looked at her questioningly. She closed her eyes in defeat, knowing resistance was futile. 1847 Ashland Avenue, apartment 3B. 1847 Ashland Avenue, apartment 3B. I want eyes on the building, discreet surveillance, and I need coverage on the kids' school. He ended the call and looked at her steadily. What school does Tyler attend? Washington Elementary, she heard herself answer, watching her carefully constructed walls crumble. But I can't just accept all of this without giving something back. She gestured helplessly. That's not how I operate. You can and you will. He moved closer, and she forced herself to hold her ground. This is not a debt, Miss Sullivan. This is not something you owe me. This is me doing what's right because I have the power to do it. Do you understand? She swallowed hard. I'm not used to people helping without expecting something in return. Then get used to it. His voice softened slightly. You're under my protection now. That means something in my world. It means you don't pay for what I choose to provide. Over the following weeks, Emma discovered exactly what being under Vincent Romano's protection meant. It meant Tyler being accepted into a prestigious private school with an excellent medical program for asthmatic children, complete with a scholarship that covered everything. It meant her 15-year-old car being replaced by a newer, safer vehicle that simply appeared one morning with registration in her name. It meant never worrying about groceries because deliveries arrived weekly without her ordering them. It also meant noticing things she'd been trying not to notice, like how Vincent always seemed to be in whatever room she was cleaning, working on his laptop, or making phone calls. But watching her with those dark, intense eyes, like how he started asking questions about Tyler, what he enjoyed, what he was learning, whether his asthma was being managed properly, like how one afternoon she arrived at work to find a top-of-the-line nebulizer sitting on the staff room table with a note attached. Better than the clinic's equipment for Tyler, VR. She'd stood there holding that note, tears blurring her vision, understanding that this man was weaving himself into the fabric of their lives in ways she couldn't untangle even if she wanted to. Rosa pulled her aside one day, concern etched across her weathered face. I've worked for the Romano family for 18 years, the older woman said quietly. I've never seen Mr. Vincent look at anyone the way he looks at you. Be careful, mija. That man's world is dangerous. But his heart? She shook her head. That might be the most dangerous thing of all. Emma knew she should be cautious, should maintain boundaries, should remember that men like Vincent Romano lived in a world of violence and moral ambiguity that she couldn't begin to understand. But when she thought about how safe she felt for the first time in years, how Tyler was thriving in ways she'd never imagined possible, how Jason was facing years in prison on charges that kept multiplying. She couldn't quite bring herself to rebuild the walls Vincent had torn down. Lines were being crossed that neither of them had planned to cross. Emma was supposed to remain just another employee. Vincent was supposed to remain just her employer. But life rarely respects the boundaries we try to maintain. When protection transforms into something deeper, when care evolves into feelings that neither person can deny, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit what's really happening. And that moment was approaching faster than either of them anticipated. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon, exactly 9 weeks after Vincent had first seen her bandage. Emma was organizing books in the third-floor library, her favorite space in the entire mansion, with its floor-to-ceiling shelves and the scent of leather and old paper. She was reaching for a volume on a high shelf when the ladder shifted unexpectedly beneath her. For one heart-stopping moment, she felt herself falling backward, arms flailing uselessly. Then, strong hands caught her waist, steadied her, pulled her against a solid chest that smelled of expensive cologne and something uniquely him. "I've got you." Vincent's voice was rough against her ear. "You're safe." She should have pulled away immediately, should have thanked him professionally and re-established proper distance. Instead, she found herself turning in his arms, her hands coming to rest against his chest, her breathing unsteady. He was so close she could see golden flecks in his dark eyes, could feel heat radiating from his body, could hear his breathing change and deepen as he looked down at her. Emma. Her first name on his lips sent electricity racing down her spine. He'd never used it before, always maintaining that formal distance. "I'm trying very hard to maintain appropriate boundaries here." Appropriate. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Yes, appropriate. His hand came up to cup her cheek, the one that had been bruised, now healed but still tender in memory. "You work for me. You're vulnerable. Taking advantage of that would make me no better than the man who hurt you." "I don't feel vulnerable right now." The words escaped before she could stop them. "I feel like I don't know what I feel." His thumb traced her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "What do you want, Emma? Tell me, because I need to know if I'm misreading everything." "I don't know what this is," she admitted, honesty feeling like stepping off a cliff. "I know you've been incredibly kind to Tyler and me. I know I feel safer than I have in years. I know that when I see you, my heart does this ridiculous thing where it speeds up and I forget how to breathe properly. But I also know your world is dangerous and I have a son to protect, and getting involved with someone like you would be completely reckless." He smiled slightly. "Dangerous, complicated. All of that is absolutely true. You're right to be cautious." But he didn't release her. "Getting involved with me would bring complications into your life that you don't need. My enemies would see you as leverage. My lifestyle would put both you and Tyler at risk. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to keep this professional." Yes. Her heart was breaking even as she agreed. The smart thing. The smart thing. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. "But I stopped doing smart things the moment I decided to make you my concern. The moment I saw that bruise and felt something crack inside me that I didn't know could crack. The moment I realized I couldn't go a single day without knowing you and Tyler were safe and happy." Vincent. His name felt intimate on her tongue, forbidden and right all at once. If you've ever felt yourself falling for someone you knew you shouldn't want, someone who represents everything logic says is wrong, but your heart insists is right, then you understand what Emma was experiencing in that moment. Sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the most honest one. Sometimes protecting your heart means taking the biggest risk of all. And if you're invested in seeing where this leads, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us about a time you took a chance on something that scared you. Your stories matter to this community. "I don't know what we're doing," she whispered, her hand still pressed against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady. "But I know I can't keep pretending I don't care, that you're just my employer, that I don't look for you every day, that I don't lie awake thinking about what kind of man walks into someone's life and changes everything without asking permission first. You know exactly what kind of man I am," he said quietly, his voice carrying old pain carefully controlled. "I'm the kind who walks into people's lives and takes what he wants. But with you, Emma, with you and Tyler, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to give instead of take. I'm trying to protect instead of possess." "I have conditions," she heard herself say, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "If we're going to do this, whatever this is, I need you to understand my boundaries. Name them." His eyes never left hers. "Tyler comes first, always. If this ever puts him at risk, if your world ever touches him in a way that could hurt him, we stop immediately." Agreed. No hesitation. "What else?" "I keep my job. I keep my independence. I don't want to be someone you take care of like a pet project. I need to maintain my own identity, my own income, my own sense of self." Something warm flickered in his expression. "You never have to worry about money again. But if working matters to you, if independence matters, then you work. I would never take that from you. What else?" "Teach me." She straightened her shoulders, gathering courage. "About your world, about how to stay safe in it, about what Tyler needs to know as he gets older. If I'm stepping into this, I need to understand what I'm stepping into." "Done." He cupped her face in both hands. "I'll teach you everything. I'll never hide who I am or what I do, anything else. Just," she took a shaky breath, "just don't break my heart. I've been hurt enough for one lifetime. I can't survive it if you—" "Never." The word was a vow, absolute and unshakable. "I will never hurt you, Emma. I will never abandon you or Tyler. I will never make you regret trusting me. This I swear on everything I hold sacred." When he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying simultaneously. His lips were gentle but insistent, asking permission even as he claimed what he wanted. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and she felt him smile against her mouth. "So that's a yes," he murmured against her lips. "That's a cautious yes." But she was smiling too, feeling something bright and terrifying unfold in her chest. "Don't think this means I'm going to stop being careful." "I would be disappointed if you did." He rested his forehead against hers. "Careful is what kept you and Tyler alive all this time. But now you don't have to be careful alone." The next 4 months unfolded like a dream Emma kept expecting to shatter. Vincent insisted she and Tyler move into one of his properties, a beautiful brownstone in a safe neighborhood with excellent schools nearby. She'd protested initially until he'd calmly pointed out that her building with its broken locks and questionable heating system was more dangerous than anything in his world. "You want independence?" he'd said. "Fine. Pay me rent, whatever you think is fair. But Tyler deserves better than that apartment, and you know it." She'd agreed to pay $800 monthly which she knew was absurdly low for a 4-bedroom brownstone in this area, but he'd accepted without argument. Small victories, she'd told herself. Tyler adapted to their new circumstances with the resilience of childhood. He loved his new school, loved having his own room with actual space to play, loved that Mr. Vincent came by most evenings to have dinner with them. What he didn't know, what Emma carefully kept from him, was exactly who Mr. Vincent was in the broader world, or what he did when he wasn't sitting at their kitchen table helping with homework. "He's a businessman," she'd explained when Tyler asked questions. "He helps people solve problems." Technically accurate, even if the problems Vincent solved often involved making dangerous people disappear. One evening, approximately 5 months into their relationship, Emma was preparing dinner when Tyler rushed into the kitchen, his inhaler clutched in one small hand, panic written across his face. "Mom, I can't breathe right. It's bad this time." Her heart stopped. She grabbed the nebulizer Vincent had provided, her hands shaking as she set it up with practiced efficiency. Tyler was wheezing severely, his small chest heaving with effort, his lips starting to take on a bluish tinge that sent terror racing through her veins. "It's okay, baby. We're going to fix this. Just breathe slowly, like we practiced." But it wasn't working. The nebulizer wasn't helping. He was getting worse, not better. Pure panic clawed at her throat as she dialed 911 with trembling fingers. Then, without conscious thought, she called Vincent. He answered immediately. "Emma, what's wrong?" "It's Tyler. Severe asthma attack. The worst I've ever seen. Ambulance is coming, but Vincent, I'm terrified. I don't know what to do." "I'm 12 minutes away. Stay calm. Keep him breathing. I'm coming." He made it in 8 minutes, bursting through the door just as the paramedics arrived. While they worked on Tyler with focused efficiency, Vincent pulled Emma against his chest, his arms like steel holding her together when she wanted to fall apart completely. "He'll be okay," he murmured into her hair, his voice steady even though she could feel his heart racing. "He's strong, just like his mother." At the hospital, while doctors stabilized Tyler with treatments more advanced than anything Emma had seen before, Vincent made phone calls. Within 2 hours, the city's top pediatric pulmonologist was consulting on Tyler's case, adjusting medications, creating a comprehensive treatment plan that would change everything. Emma watched it all happen, watched Vincent move mountains for her son, and felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. This wasn't just protection anymore. This wasn't just care or even affection. This was love, the deep, terrifying, life-changing kind that altered everything it touched. When Tyler was finally sleeping peacefully, his breathing steady and strong, she found Vincent in the waiting room, his head in his hands, his usually immaculate suit wrinkled for the first time since she'd known him. "Vincent." He looked up, and she saw it clearly in his eyes. The same terror she'd felt, the same desperate love. "I thought," his voice cracked slightly, "when you called, when I heard the fear in your voice, I thought I might lose both of you." She sat beside him, taking his hand. "Both of us?" "You and Tyler." He turned to face her fully, no longer hiding what he felt. "Somewhere along the way, he stopped being just your son. He became mine in every way that matters. In my heart, in my priorities, in how I think about the future. He's mine, Emma. And if something had happened to him..." Tears streamed down her face as she processed his words. "Vincent, you can't just claim my son like that." But even as she said it, her voice held no real protest. "I know." He pulled her against him. "I know I have no legal rights, no biological claim, except what you choose to give me. But Emma, I love that boy like he's my own blood. I would die for him. I would kill for him. I would tear this city apart to keep him safe. If that makes me presumptuous, if that crosses a line, then I apologize. But I can't change what I feel. I don't want you to change. She pulled back to look at him directly. But you need to understand what this means. If you're claiming Tyler as yours, if you're taking on that role, you can't walk away when things get complicated. You can't decide someday that this life is too messy or that you want something simpler. He's already lost one father. I won't let him lose another. I would never. His hands framed her face with infinite gentleness. Emma, listen to me. I don't do anything halfway. When I commit, it's forever. You and Tyler, you're my family now. My responsibility, yes, but also my joy, my purpose. The reason I'm working to transition the business into something legitimate, something I won't be ashamed for Tyler to know about when he's older. You're really changing everything. She'd heard whispers from Rosa about Vincent systematically moving the family operations away from illegal activities into legitimate businesses. I'm trying. He looked tired suddenly, the weight of transformation visible in his eyes. It's slow and dangerous because not everyone in the organization wants change. But yes, I'm building something different for Tyler, so he never has to know what I used to be. And for you, so you never have to worry about losing me to prison or worse. The school assembly for Tyler's second-grade achievement ceremony was held in the auditorium 3 months later. Emma sat beside Vincent, their fingers intertwined, watching their son receive an award for academic excellence and perfect attendance. "That's our boy," Vincent whispered, unmistakable pride shining in his eyes. "Our boy," Emma echoed softly, the words feeling natural and right. After the ceremony, Tyler ran over to them, his certificate clutched in both hands, his smile brilliant. "Mr. Vincent, did you see? I got the highest award in my whole grade." "I saw, champ." Vincent crouched to Tyler's level. "I'm incredibly proud of you. That certificate is going straight on the refrigerator in the place of honor." Tyler bit his lip, suddenly shy, in a way Emma recognized meant something important was coming. "Mr. Vincent, can I ask you something?" "Anything, buddy, always." "Well, you're at our house every day. You help with my homework and you came to the hospital when I couldn't breathe and you do all the dad stuff." He took a deep breath, gathering courage. "Can I call you Dad? Because it feels like you're my dad, even though I know you're not really." Vincent's eyes went suspiciously bright, his composure cracking in a way Emma had never seen. "Tyler, I would be more honored than I can possibly express if you called me Dad. More honored than anything in my life." "Really?" Tyler's entire face lit up like sunrise. "You mean it?" "I mean it with everything I am." Vincent pulled the boy into a fierce hug. "I love you, kid, so much." "I love you too, Dad." Emma pressed her hand over her mouth, trying not to sob as she watched the two most important people in her world embrace. Vincent reached out with his free arm and pulled her into the hug, the three of them standing there in the emptying auditorium. A family built not by blood, but by choice and courage and love. That night, after Tyler was asleep, Emma and Vincent stood on the balcony of their brownstone, looking at the city lights spread below them like fallen stars. "I never imagined this," Emma said softly. 9 months ago, I was terrified of losing my job, hiding bruises, barely surviving. Now I have a home, a family, a future I never dared dream about. The moment I saw that bandage on your face, Vincent replied, pulling her against him. Something changed in me. I couldn't have explained it then, but I understand now. I saw a woman who was strong enough to survive, brave enough to protect her child, and too proud to ask for help, even when she desperately needed it. I saw someone worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth loving. So you did. She leaned into his warmth. You protected us. You fought for us. And somewhere along the way, we became yours. And you became mine. He turned her to face him. Which brings me to something I've been planning. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Emma's breath caught. I know it's fast. I know there are still complications in my life that I'm working to resolve. I know my past isn't completely cleaned up yet. But I also know that every day with you and Tyler is better than any day before. And I want every day after to be ours together. He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring. Will you marry me, Emma Sullivan? Will you let me be not just Tyler's father figure, but your husband? Will you build a life with me that's nothing like what either of us came from, and everything we both deserve? She thought about that morning 9 months ago, standing in the Romano estate with a bandage on her face, terrified and alone. She thought about the journey since then, the fear giving way to trust, the walls crumbling to reveal vulnerability, the gradual opening of her heart to a man who should have been wrong but was somehow perfectly right. Yes, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. When he slid the ring onto her finger, it felt like the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. The housekeeper and the crime boss, the woman who survived and the man who protected. Together they'd built something that defied expectations, broke every rule, and proved that sometimes the most unlikely connections become the strongest foundations. Inside, Tyler slept peacefully, safe and loved, with parents who would move heaven and earth to protect him, and in the morning they would wake as a family, bound not by conventional paths or society's approval, but by the kind of love that conquers fear and transforms strangers into home. Emma Sullivan's story comes full circle, from a woman hiding her pain and fear to someone who found not just protection, but genuine love in the most unexpected place. Her journey reminds us that sometimes the people we least expect to care become the ones who change everything. That real strength isn't about never needing help. It's about having the courage to accept it when it's offered with genuine heart. If this story touched you, if you believe in the power of unexpected connections and second chances, show us some love by hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss our stories. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts or telling us about a time someone showed up for you when you needed it most. Have you ever had someone step into your life and change everything? Share your story with our community because every story matters, every experience connects us, and your voice adds to this beautiful tapestry we're creating together. Until next time, remember that the right person won't just accept your past, they'll help you build a future worth fighting for. Take care of yourselves and each other.